Well, it's kind of greenish.
Well, I have some red, but I have green also.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My
Well,
husband,
let's start because Marcia has
Oh, how?
another engagement. So let's start with Marcia. Marcia's going to give us the guidelines for publishing. And hey, send your stories, songs, poems as soon as they're done. We don't have a lot of time left. And Marcia, the floor is yours. The screen is yours.
Thank you, Peggy. Before I read this, I want to say that this whole announcement will be sent to you via email, so you don't have to remember everything here, because there have been several revisions in the whole process since we started planning for Village Stories 2021. So keep in mind, you don't have to remember these things. It's going to come in the email very shortly. Okay, thank you so much to all of you who have submitted a story or poem for Village Stories 2021. Your Village Stories 2021 team has already begun editing several stories and poems. Here are a few important reminders. Again, you do not have to remember these. Number 1, send all entries as an attachment to our new club email address, which is villagestorieslw@gmail.com. It's a new email.
but only for Village Stories.
Right. Only for Village Stories. Second, in the subject.
Please repeat. Oh,
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. Please repeat. I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you please repeat the email?
Yes, it's called villagestorieslw@gmail.com. Capital L, capital W.
Thank you. Village Stories.
All right, number 2, in the subject line, name your entry in this format. Author's name, poem, story, or song title, and the submission date. Real simple. Number 3, your Word document for stories and poems must follow these guidelines. Arial font, size 16, that's 1/6. Center the title, size 22, bold. Under the title, type and center, quote, by your name in size 16 font, not bold. Next, save your document in Word with the same name as the subject line in your email, which will be author name, poem, story, or song title, and the submission date. Real easy. Number 4, the total maximum number combined per author submissions will be 2,500 words. So if you submit 2 poems and 2 stories, they cannot add up to more than 2,500 words total. Okay? Number 5, July 31, an important date. That's the final submission date for your stories and poems. Authors will receive a PDF copy of the book before publication to check and approve their submissions. You may not like some of our edits, and this is your opportunity to check that out, to make sure that we're including your piece exactly as you want it. Number 6, you can join the cover contest. July 31st is the deadline to submit the front and back cover ideas. 1 idea per person for the front and back covers. Submit your entries as a JPG or a Word document. And here's a great opportunity to be really creative with the cover. On August 1, 2021, The Village Stories team member will send an email to club members with all the front and back cover submissions. And then club members may then select their favorite cover, front and back, and send your vote by email to villagestorieslw@gmail.com. The winning entry will be notified by email September 1, 2021. This information was already sent to members of the Publishers Club February 24th. However, it has been updated to what I read to you today with this new email. Subsequent deadlines and updates will periodically be sent from Village Stories 2021 from that team. So stay tuned. Questions?
Marcia, if we've already sent some pieces, okay, we don't have to resend those.
No,
Okay.
no. And Scott, I got a bunch of your poems that I edited. And,
Okay.
And same with everybody else. You don't have to resend them if you've already sent them once. Good question. Nancy Brown, who's the co-chair of this, is out of town, lucky girl. But she sends her greetings to everybody, and she's been working very hard to streamline this whole process, which, as you can imagine, it's quite lengthy.
Mhm.
And I'm looking forward to a really, really wonderful village story book for 2021. It should be great. We've got some great writers in the club who've already submitted very wonderful pieces.
I just
Any other questions?
I wanted to add something. I wanted to kind of explain what we have, because we have something really cool that we didn't have last year. Last year, poor Peggy had to edit every single thing. This year, we have 3 editors. The story, like Marcia was saying, is going to come to Village Stories LW, and when it comes in, Nancy will first put a copy of the original document that will not be changed in a special place, and then she sends it for the first edit to Peggy. When Peggy is done, then it goes to Marcia. When Marcia is done, it goes to Nancy. We have 3 edits. When Marcia's, when Nancy's done, it comes to me so that I will be ready. It will be ready for publishing. When we get all of the articles in on by July 31st, I'm going to ask Phil to take the first shot at putting the stories in the order that we would like to have them in the book. That will then be reviewed by the rest of the team, and onward we go.
Any other questions?
Yeah, also, Phil will be the cover chairman. He'll take care of the covers for us.
Okay, I have a question about the font size. I really admire everyone for their hard work that they do on this. And was a majority of the people wanted to go along with this font size? Because I'm not happy with it at all.
I think we did that mainly because much of our audience are people our age or older, and the eyesight is not one of the good things. And the library seems to really like the larger font.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I usually buy them for family and friends, but this year I won't do that because it does make us look like a bunch of old senior citizens in a book. But if the majority of people are the ones that are going to be reading this, the seniors, then so be it.
In fact, the library will only take big print books.
We have met the enemy and they are us.
Really? It's
Well, as far as
sometimes you
If you publish on, do you publish on demand?
misplace your reading glasses a lot, you know.
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
You may be able to print both options with a larger font and then a Times New Roman.
Oh, there's an excellent idea.
I did not know that.
Well, you could have two versions of the book out there. Yes, we could. One with the 11
Pretty cool.
font, like we did one year, most of our things, and one with a 16 font. We could do that.
Yeah, I personally like the 16 fonts, size 16 fonts. To me, it works good. And I don't mind to be included in senior citizens because I live in assisted living facility, and that's the way it is. I mean, this is part of my life. There's no problem for me.
It is what it is.
My husband never read the books until they were in the big font. He read them this time and he says, wow, I love them. So
it is kind of like a lot more work for me to do that, but what we can do is have a village member vote on whether or not we want to have two books out there. Okay?
Sounds good. Okay.
I have a question. Do you think it's worth the back copies of the past years, reprinting it in bigger print?
That's an idea too.
I don't know who has some of those years, where the original is that we could do it with.
I think I've got that.
You know, we could do, maybe the ebook version can be large print or small print.
That's true too.
I'm not going with an ebook, I'm sorry. I don't like the way
that's so good.
when you convert to an ebook, the way it converts is not pretty. It's not nice. I don't like how their ebooks look anymore. They used to do a much better job. They changed, and it's not nice.
You have to use their software for Kindle Create.
Oh.
Yeah, I did, but it still doesn't convert it nicely.
I wasn't aware that we had made that decision to do an ebook version. I didn't think we did.
We never had an ebook version.
No. Now, let's have Deneen Peaks. She's going to tell us a little about her book.
Oh, thanks. Actually, I have a couple things to talk about. One, Phil, I finally, after a whole month going back and forth with Amazon, I finally was able to post a review to your book, The Boomerang, twice. So, it took forever. They kept saying, no, you can't do it. You're a relative. And I finally wrote back and said, no, I'm not a relative. And I had to buy the book too, which I didn't mind doing. But it was like, I bought the book. I want to write a review. Let me write a review. So, but it took a lot of due diligence so don't give up if you want to write a review for someone and they come back saying, oh, you can't do it. You know, just keep arguing with them and you'll get it done. Okay, the next thing is I did publish my second book. It's called Royalty and Loyalty. And it's about 4 women in the Old Testament that are either a princess or a queen, which would be Sarah, Queen of Elizabeth, Queen of Sheba, and Queen Amuya, who was King Nebuchadnezzar's wife. And in the New Testament, it's women of loyalty, which are Mary Magdalene, Mary, the mother of Jesus, who she is royal in her own right, and also the Samaritan woman and the Syrophoenician woman. Each one of my stories is written in first person so that I can perform them also. And there are Bible questions after each story so that you can use it as a Bible study. There are also facts. And there is also what I call nourishment of the soul, which is to try to figure out how we can apply this woman's story to our lives. So, and it is in Kindle, and I'm working on my audio on it starting tomorrow. So I'm pretty excited. And then my last thing is, you know, I'm throwing spaghetti against the wall, seeing if there's a publisher out there for me. And I want everyone to be aware, in case you're not, that I was approached by Austin Macaulay Publishers. And it sounds like, wow, this is really cool. Wow, they're, building my ego up and everything. But send me a contract. Bottom line is, they wanted me to pay them £2,500 for them to do my book. And I started Googling them, and they're called a vanity publishing company.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when it sounds too good to be true, it's not. But I just wanted others to be aware that, it's one of those scams out there. I mean, they'll buy the rights for your book, and if you pay them money, they'll do a little marketing for you. But, that's not the way we want to go. So that's it. Thank you for the time.
This is just a suggestion, because you are giving this good information. Would you mind sending the email to the publishing club members so that all of them can know? Okay. And also, I would like to know, where can we buy your book about the 4 women?
It is on Amazon.
It is on Amazon.
Yes. So it's always best if you can put in my name. If you highlight on my name on my picture, you'll see how to spell my name. That'll pull it up right away.
Okay. And that is Daneen. Janine. Okay.
And Pysze.
Yeah, Pish.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
She's such a good author, Denise.
Yes. I think that sounds wonderful.
Oh, yeah. I read her Bad Girls of the Bible. Plus, she's a balladeer. So it's really nice. Anyway, let's go on.
I'm going to interject just a minute here. I don't know, Janine, if you could use the novel and short story writers market. That's it's a very credible source, and it's the most trusted guide to getting published. So it's a very good book. It tends to be a little expensive. It was $30. I think you can get it in the library and get the newest version. But it has a whole listing of everything. And the way it's showing up in my screen, I'm backwards. So I don't know if it's showing up backwards for you too.
It's perfect.
Oh, that's funny.
You.
Okay. Yeah, so that might be an option for you.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That is all valuable information. Some people would like to have email so that they can say, oh, exactly, I saw. That's what they were talking about.
Right.
Also, for anybody who's poets out there, the Poets Market is probably made by the same people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Different editors, but the same people. So that's another good one. They put it out every year as well.
That's great.
So if you're into that market, it's helpful because you're not sending things out not knowing what they're looking for.
Yeah.
They're sending, it's based by subject matter, maybe what your skill level may be. Some prefer beginner writers and they want to, promote them and sponsor them. And others are looking for well-established writers. But the Poets Market gives you a blurb on each of the publications. And also on, for those of you who may want to enter a contest, they have that information as well. And they list publishers.
Thank you, Scott. The name is so right. I started the publishing club because my book was published by a vanity press, cost me $3,000, and they never did a thing for me. So I want to say one thing before Theresa starts, and this is a quote from Mysteries and Thrillers. And I don't know if you go to our publishing news, but I send all this stuff to the publishing news. If you don't, maybe it's because you need a password. If you don't, let me know. Anyway, here's what they said. What kind of expectations does your story create as you may gratify readers in a surprising way? Or so you may gratify readers in a surprising way. And with no further ado, let's go to our facilitator, our teacher, Theresa Keegan. We all love her.
Thanks, Peggy. Thank you so much for having me here. It's an honor. I always enjoy the publishing club, and I think it's such an important thing to have this community in Laguna Woods. It's great to have. Okay. All right. Well, we overcame technical challenges. I think we're on a roll now. So again, I wanted to thank you. I wanted to go over today just a little bit of different options in terms of writing, about why we write and how. Some people write, writing is certainly a personal choice on things. And definitely what I wanted to do also is kind of motivate people. It's been a really long year. It's been a challenge for, I think, everyone. And sometimes it's just good to remember why we write. It's just a part of our life. And if you make it a conscious part and a fun part, it becomes much more enjoyable. So that's my presentation. Depending on time, we also ask you if you want to do a little bit of a writing prompt. And if you do, we can do a writing prompt and then share if we have time. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay, great. Okay, so why we write? I think the most important thing about writing is that you have a creativity that it comes from it. It comes within yourself. You're creating something that didn't exist. And what a gift that is to be able to do that. Some people write for documenting things and capturing a moment in time. For those who haven't experienced it, how many times have we been able to fall into a book and we get transformed into another culture, into another experience, another world? And it's just wonderful. And it's because the writers have experienced it and they take us along for the ride. Writing is also fun. It really is. You don't have to approach this like it's a prison sentence. You want your sentences to ring with laughter and love and sadness, and think about the emotions you want to share in that. And writing, I found, is very liberating. Even very shy people have the same loud voice when they put pen to paper. It's for all of us. And just having that opportunity to communicate and share really is essential. It's our most basic human connectedness, is to being able to share our stories. I took some quotes. I'm writing a first draft and reminding myself that I'm simply shoveling sand into a box so that later I can build castles. And I just love that image, because sometimes we get so hung up on what am I going to write? What am I going to write? That you're analysis paralysis and nothing gets done. So I just encourage everyone to really just, start. That's the most important thing. And then I also like this one from Charles Shingen on enter the writing process with a childlike sense of wonder and discovery. Let it surprise you. And I think we've all, as writers, have been in that point where you're sitting there and all of a sudden it's like, I didn't expect this to happen. And your story takes on a whole new turn. And I think that's really when creativity flows and you're outside the box of what you thought you were in, that, you were going to write this one story. And when those moments happen, that's why we write, because the joy of it is just so fulfilling. And that's the concept. But then there's actually writing. And that's where it gets a little tricky. I encourage people to write about something that made an emotional impact on them. And because it made an impact on you, you'll be able to share that a little bit better with your readers. It strikes a nerve. And the impact could be anything as mundane as, an overheard conversation, an annoying neighbor, watching a playoff game, participating in a playoff game, getting that excitement, just people watching. Writing has no limits. So you can create these stories about the person walking past you that doesn't have to be based in any reality that reflects that person, but it's what you create. You can write about dealing with traffic and parking, all these things that make us human. Looking at public art also creates a lot of emotion. And I encourage people to do, it's called ekphrastic writing, and just take an image and looking at that is just so wonderful, and writing about what you experience. You can write about feeling alone in a crowd. You can write about dealing with lockdown, which all of us have been dealing with, or just writing about a perfect day at the beach. There's nothing that we have that's pre-scripted that says, oh, well, you have to write about this. It's what resonates within you. And you need to write for yourself. Don't write thinking that, well, my audience is going to be, 30 to 50-year-old female readers. You want to just write what works for you, because that's when it becomes authentic and that's when it becomes effective. Okay. Choosing your emotion and tone of your piece is really important. You want to be consistent throughout your piece, and it's really nice to throw humor in a story, but you need to be careful that you don't become snarky. It's really a fine line, like what one person considers funny, another person could be really offended by. So snarky, I definitely encourage people. It's difficult to write without seeming pompous. And it's also, in some ways, it's easy to write snarky, like throwaway lines that you think are funny and ha ha ha. It takes away from what you're really trying to say. And an editor I had gave me that advice one time. And I had, lines in there. They were funny, they were, kind of little ha ha things. And he pulled them all out and he gave me my piece back. And I was like, wow, it was much more focused, and it wasn't pulling things in from other places. So it's really staying on consistency throughout your piece is important. And again, with the emotions, you want things that reflect our humanity. You want things that everyone has felt at some point in their life, funny, sad, beautiful, conflicted, angry, joyous. You need to be able to resonate with your reader. You're writing for yourself, but you also need to be able to resonate. And these are human emotions, and tapping into that ability to translate it into a written word is a gift, and that's what writers do. And make sure your tone reflects your writing style, and not our writing style, your writing style. I'm sorry for that error there. It could be humorous, analytical, melancholy. You could be a cheerleader. You could be a nattering nabob of negativity. You just want to really stay within your style. Don't try and be, in academia if, you never went into school. So stay true to yourself, I think, is really the most important thing that I really want to stress on that. Now, when you start writing, everyone has a different approach. I love this cartoon from Calvin and Hobbes, where he says, do you have an idea for your project yet? He says, no, I'm waiting for inspiration. You can't turn on creativity like a faucet. You have to be in the right mood. And he says, what mood is that? He says, last minute panic. I think anyone who's worked with a deadline knows very well that feeling and the inspiration you receive when there is a deadline. But before you get to that point, you need to start thinking about your piece. And I really encourage people to do what I call the 5-minute dump. And that's just write like your pants are on fire. You just write without concern for spelling, grammar, sentence structure. And it may even look like a list. And really think of, what do you want to get in this piece? Just really set your timer for 5 minutes, and really just get into that. And think about whatever it is that you're writing about, how it looked, how did it feel. You want to show, not tell, and recreate your senses in that feeling. So you want to do something like, instead of saying, I walked into the room, you could say, I was scared walking into the room. Instead of saying, I was scared walking into the room, you could say, my hands were quivering, my knees were shaking, and silently, quickly gasping for air, I entered the room. So in this dump, you want to think about those things that you want to relay, your fear of walking into the room, what happened there, who was waiting for you, what did you feel like? Recreate those feelings. And if you're writing fiction, you become your character. So you want to be able to share those, what your character is experiencing. So after you do this on a 5-minute dump, you literally walk away. You set your timer, you're like, that's it. It's your own self-inflicted deadline, and you walk away. And here is where writing really begins, because you already have something that you're thinking about. So I encourage people, make a cup of tea, walk around the block, and process what you've just put on paper or in the computer. Really think about what your story is about. What are you trying to get to? And where do you want this story to go? So now you go back and you write. And this is where there are so many options that people have. And it all depends on what kind of writing you're doing, whether it's, a novel, a short story, or anything else. But, there is no right or wrong way on this. Some people outline stories and have, very clear progression. Other people write their ending first, which to me is always an amazing thing. But I've heard people do this. I can never do it. Endings are my biggest challenge. So, some people meticulously craft every sentence, and some just randomly scroll. You just do what works best for you, because your writing process is not a one-shot deal. You need to be able to go back to it. It's a work in progress. And remember, the best thing of writing is there are no rules, but there are editors. Thank goodness. And most stories have an arc, but it's not necessarily all neatly tied and, equally spaced, 10 pages for the beginning, 10 pages for the middle, 10 pages for the end. But usually there's a conflict within a story. There's something that compels you to want to know more in a story. And then there's an epiphany or resolution. And those things tend to be in almost all good writing. And the conflict doesn't have to be, I hate my sister and she's awful. And then the end is, I love my sister. It's the conflict could be, do I choose this path? Do I choose what font to use? It can be as big or as small as you want it to be, but it needs to be something that forces a person to, or a character, to come to some thinking and resolution. And, it's done one word at a time. The work is always accomplished one word at a time. One other thing that's nice in this is there's a process called the golden nugget. I'm going to go into this with the scaffolding. Scaffolding is after you got your story done and you think it's where, it's still a very rough draft. I encourage people to make a copy of your story. And if everyone's writing on computers, that's really easy. And I think most people are right now. But if you write by hand, you can make a photocopy of your story and mark it up. And then go through and you want to find a sentence or two that reflects what you really want to write about. And you could use that either highlighting it or just take those two sentences and make another document and put those two sentences in it. And you want to chip away everything that's irrelevant to that concept. And the reality is, it may be different than what you originally thought you wanted to write about. But somewhere hidden in this story that you've written in your first draft is a piece that just is really compelling. And and you have to be brave enough to go there. Because sometimes it's not really what you want to write about. You don't think it's really your story, but it's something that's deeper within you. And sharing that and writing about it is very powerful. Within the scaffolding, it's also very challenging because if you're cutting away 8/10 of your story, you're suddenly like, wait a minute, I love that sentence. I don't want to lose that sentence. Definitely keep what you've always written. Don't get rid of any of it and have it there for you so that it could appear in another story. And the golden nugget is a phrase that's used usually about a sentence. It's usually just one sentence that is absolutely so beautiful or so revealing that you just reading it brings joy to you. And those are things that you have to kind of bury them through your stories. Like if you have one perfectly written paragraph of 10 different perfect sentences that just flow, and then your next paragraph's all choppy, that won't work. So what you want to do is take, one or two sentences and scatter them throughout your piece, knowing that it's a teaser almost that keeps readers engaged. So you hide your golden nuggets throughout your story, and it becomes a treasure hunt for your reader to find them. And again, when you remove the scaffolding, again, it could change the whole direction of your story. You know, I use this example here, you know, a piece about an idiot stealing your parking place. And it could evolve really what you really want to talk about is arrogance and entitlement, you know, and maybe you set out to talk about arrogance and entitlement. And you know what? Really all it's about is this jerk stole my parking space. So it goes both ways, from the profound down to the daily lives and, you know, challenges that we face. And I like this quote a lot. It says, the beautiful part of writing is that you don't have to get it right the first time, unlike, say, a brain surgeon. So, you know, we don't have a liver in the cooler. We have the gift of time, especially at this point in our lives, which is an amazing gift to have, and using it to really work and rework your stories. And, you know, I also encourage you to step away, you know, once you complete a piece, really step away for a bit, at least a day, maybe even a week, and then go back to it. And also read your story out loud, your writing out loud. It's very insightful when you hear what you wrote, and you'll stumble reading it if the flow isn't correct. It's like a self-monitored tool that we have that not enough writers use. Okay. And lastly, to get back to deadlines, I think that's really what we really all need. And I appreciated this cartoon, and it's on my refrigerator. And my husband is like, that's exactly what you do every day. And it says, I don't understand it. No matter how much I drink coffee, play on my phone, refresh my email, look up things online, go to the kitchen for snacks, message my friends, scroll through Twitter, and play with the cats, I still can't get any writing done. And I think, you know, that's, it rings too true for me, I know. But I think that that's something that writers, we kind of psych ourselves out that we, you know, well, we have to write and we have to have everything correct and we have to have this and we have to have that. It's like, no, do the 5-minute dump, get something on paper. And from there, you can really work with it and go with things and really have some options on that. So that was my little presentation about writing. And I'd love to talk with people a little bit. If you want to ask some questions or talk about your own process, I would love to hear from you.
You know, what's true too is when you write, you're creating history. I've been writing diaries for about 40 years, and I feel like I'm creating history.
Would you share your diaries, Peggy?
I'm going to, yeah.
Would you, but like, no, that's just, it's an interesting concept because I know a lot of people feel they want their diaries burned when they die.
Well, my grandma and aunt wrote diaries, and the bad part about them was they talked about personal friends. I don't know. They give their first and last names. They didn't say things that meant anything. They didn't talk about their feelings. Just little facts, like I went to the market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to throw something in. Oh, Scott, you go.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Scott, go ahead.
Okay, I was just going
I just want to say something real quick. No, go ahead, Scott, really.
All right. Well, I was just
All right, I'll go just for a second. I want to say, go ahead.
Go ahead, Phil.
Here we go. Sorry about that. Just for something real quick. It sounded a little sentimental or corny, but really prose and poetry to me is really music. Mm-hmm. And you have sort of an ability to have an inner jam session in a way. Some of the best things I've written are just something that popped in my head and I just let it go for 12 minutes, like, you know, a jazz instrumental, and then you go back and fix it, but keep it musical. Keep it, everything's music. The whole cosmos is vibration. Keep it ordered and musical. That's all I want to say.
Scott, what do you have? And I won't interrupt you.
Okay, no, I was just gonna say that as far as, you know, diaries and all that kind of stuff, what you say in them, we all have our kind of guard up about how much we want to reveal about ourselves. So there is that question of, okay, what do I want to say that if somebody did find this, I'd be okay with them? And what do I think I should keep, you know, for myself? You know, and then there's the other issue of if you're writing for a certain type of audience, or maybe a larger audience, or you want a family maybe a couple generations down the road to know what it was like to live in your time. A diary is kind of a people's history. You know, it's not maybe what the history books say, but it's your own history, and you're a person of your time. So some of that has to do with what your intended audience might be, as far as what you reveal, and also how you represent your own generation.
Right. And wouldn't any one of us, I would just love to have my grandmother's, you know, to have a diary or letters from my grandmother's time. You know, I think it would be so insightful and just so beautiful.
Yeah,
I had a friend in Chicago who had a diary from a relative several generations before. And in it, he talked about having walked from St. Louis all the way to San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
You know, with the wagon train. And the number of shoes he went through. He walked, he didn't ride.
And just thinking about that, like that was his life. He didn't think it was spectacular or anything. He probably thought it was pretty darn hard, and I'm sure it was. Yeah. You know, and what we're doing now, I just, getting that historical perspective is just such a gift.
Yeah, my grandma talks about opening Leisure World and how she came to visit here. That was 60 years ago.
Wow, that's great.
Mm. Yes, and my father wrote about his service in World War II, and I'm really glad he did. First of all, because I have an interest in history anyway, but then this is history with family history. So it's kind of two gifts, if you will.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the things that historians really do value is not just the stuff they find in the papers, but the letters and the diaries, you know, of people who were in action or living through a time, and what it was like for them. So it has a lot of value in that as well.
Yeah. And I think where we are.
Something, if I could. I'm sorry.
Sure. Go right ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, real quick. This time I'll stay on the thread, but I learned more about the Civil War by listening to audiobooks on YouTube about 3 Civil War wives, right? I learned more about the whole Civil War from these Confederate wives keeping 3-4 year diaries. The detail is unbelievable. You know, politics aside, a diary can really be a great tool for.
Yeah.
I'd just like to speak to that, if I may, for a minute.
Please.
When you said Civil War, you reminded me. Oh, I apologize for just being a square, but my camera is not working. However, I'm enjoying watching all of you. So I'm here as a ghostwriter. When I was writing my novels, almost all of the incidents, observations that made their way into those novels were based on somebody's diary or archives that I found down in, because it's set in Nashville. I found that I worked a lot in the Tennessee State Archives to find these unpublished things. And those are known as primary sources, and they do give you a remarkable insight into how people actually lived and how they actually thought that you don't usually get. I have a lot of history books too, but I got the most inspiring and most interesting incidents that I use in my books. I got those from primary sources like diaries. So.
Great.
We're going to have a session on diaries. I'm going to try to do that in June.
Oh, good. Does anyone else have any questions about the writing situation, writing day-to-day things, or are we ready to do a writing prompt?
Yeah,
Let's
I'd
do
like to ask a question about, all my stories, short stories, which I submit for the village stories, they are based on true episodes in my life.
Mhm.
And then I'm just wondering that, do they have to be all based on true episodes, or it can also be a fiction? I do not know.
Writing style, I know you can certainly write creative fiction. I don't know, is there a structure, Marcia, in terms of what's submitted to the Village Stories? Does it have to be nonfiction?
No,
No, I don't think so.
no.
Okay.
So
There are-
yes, you definitely can go into fiction, Dia.
Sure.
There are basically
We've
four
got,
types of things that are submitted. We have basically essays, we have
Oh,
fiction, we have poems, we have
Memoirs, memoirs,
life stories, memoirs,
Okay.
yeah, all of it.
and songs. And
and
songs.
songs.
yes,
Okay,
yeah,
great.
that explains this to me.
Yeah. And Dia, it's interesting if you've always been writing, nonfiction, to start writing fiction is like, I always equate it to like when Dorothy lands in Kansas and in Oz and everything turns multicolor. It's just such a expansive
Exactly.
opportunity. I find it kind of overwhelming, but I know, thank goodness, a lot of people do it very, very well. But that's definitely an opportunity and a tool that everyone has as a writer.
Let me show you something before you start. My father wrote this when I was born.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
September 19th, 1944. I was born September 17th.
Oh,
And
how
this is me.
wonderful.
Oh,
And I was born on the 18th.
that's cute. What a gift to have that. And when you think about that, we're all like, oh, that's such a great gift. Think about the gifts we can give to people, as writers. And, it doesn't have to always be a big, New York Times best-selling list. It can be an article, it can be something clipped out. I wrote a piece about my mom's china cabinet, and I clipped it out and I put it in the china cabinet. Now I don't know where the china cabinet's going, but I want the next person to know what was there before. So, just kind of think about the things that we can give as writers.
Yeah.
Well, let's start.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now we can either just write whatever you want, a topic of your choice to just think about writing and do a 5-minute dump, or I have a couple of writing prompts that I can give you that may encourage you. They're one sentence story prompts. So I'm just going to do a couple of these, and I'll give you maybe 4 of them to choose from. And again, please just feel free to also do your own writing. And I think one of the easiest prompts is always why I write. But these are the other 4 stories prompts if you want. One is, what if after you die, God asks you, how was heaven?
Mhm.
Past tense. Uh-oh.
There you go. He held her heart for a summer, her body for a night, and her mind for 20 years.
Nice.
I threw away an opportunity because I was scared, and now I'm scared that I will never have an opportunity. And the last one is, he promised he would wait for her forever, and she kept him to his word. So those are some things you can think about. And if you want to write about one of those topics, or if you want to just go off on another tangent of your own, let's say that we have 7 minutes to write. We want to be done at 5:15, right? Well, 3:15. I'm sorry, I operate on East Coast time. So we want to be done, right, Peggy, at 3:15?
Yep.
Okay. So let's say, let's go with 8 minutes, and that'll give us time to share.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Hmm.
And Sunshine, you may want to mute everyone if you could. 1 minute, just to let you know. Okay, that was our time. You want to stop writing and hopefully people are ready to
I'm
share
ready.
some of the things that they've written. And I'd like, when people share, that we offer feedback in a constructive manner and a respectful manner. I've never had an issue with it, but just always try and throw that out there just to be careful. Okay. Does anyone want to start with sharing? Okay, Cheryl's iPad.
I'll start.
Oh, okay, Peggy. Is that okay?
Oh, I don't care.
Okay.
Phil, you want to start?
Phil, go ahead.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Okay. Just 1 second here. I'll just start reading. God asks, how was heaven in the end? How disconcerting. You mean heaven is physical after all? I thought heaven knows no bounds. You mean it's a true physical extension of this mess? So when the final star in the cosmos explodes into nothingness and darkness, that's it? On the bright side, does it teach us that perfect darkness, perfect nothingness is the real heaven? James Brown sang about be black, be beautiful, and blessed blackness. Was he writing also about, I don't understand what I wrote. Was he also discussing metaphysics and ethnic pride? That can give us a certain kind of comfort that when we hurtle helplessly through that tunnel with the light at the end of the cone, we can expect a prime rib, even better than the ones at Valley View Casino. We can approach Elvis and ask him, why did you make harem scare him? So we learn heaven is bliss. Bright light is bliss. But perfect darkness, that's the ticket. Then we can wait for the great rewind. Thank you.
Okay, good.
That was great.
Philosophical.
I really enjoyed the ending of it with the great rewind. You really took us along on that trip, and I love the lyrical part of it. You know, when you're reading you can hear the rhythm in it.
Good one.
Thank you.
Okay, here I go. Wow, this is about the God one also. So I'll start again. Wow, I said, you're a woman. Gotta say though, it sometimes seems more like hell. Is there a difference? But there were those heavenly moments, like when I met my husband and I knew I'd finally met the right one. Or when my son was born and the doctor told me he was perfect. Or when my students call me their favorite teacher. Come to think about it, I guess it was heaven. The end. Short but sweet.
Peggy, that's beautiful. It's absolutely lovely, and such a great capturing those moments and sharing them with us was really nice.
Thank you.
And a whole shift of perspective. That's great. That's good. Does anyone else care to share?
I'll share.
Lorraine?
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, I'm looking at your first prompt, but it's a little different what I've done. They huddled on a savanna without woven baskets to shield their heads. They stood on an elevated lot, secure in their own worth, but chastised for their value. Their men saw them as a valueless flock of women for whom death would be a welcomed blessing.
Wow.
Nice. Wow. Wow.
Lorraine, that's lovely. It's so intriguing and so powerful.
Thank you.
And current.
And can you talk a little bit what motivated you on that?
I've been thinking about what you were saying, and my mind works strange because I saw that same cartoon Sunday, and it just the one with the desk and the woman and the man. She's telling all this and that, and I think that's how I function. There's so much crap every which way, but then I thought about, you know, something. I'm looking outside the window right now, and I'm seeing all of my husband's plants. And their ranunculuses and their irises and their daffodils. And I'm thinking, what if we were on a savanna where there was nothing, you know, because women, you know, men equate that you give flowers to women and, you know, blah, blah, this and that. But I think deep down inside, they really don't like us sometimes, you know? And
I love it.
Where I went.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to hear it from the woman's perspective next.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Anyone else? Sunshine?
Oh.
You're muted.
I know. Okay. I took off on the opposite of one of your subjects, the opportunity never presented. It was 1965 when I watched the Sound of Music movie. I loved the character Maria, played by Julie Andrews. I could picture myself on stage playing that part. In the next 13 years, that opportunity never came. But the thrilling moments I had on stage in the shows where I sang many of her songs kind of took the place.
That's
Yeah.
great. I love it. And what a nice little spin that you have there, and you're, you know, the catalyst that got you singing and things. That's great. Michael, did you want to share? You're muted. You're muted.
1 second. There we go.
There you go.
I used none of the prompts.
Good.
Okay. Scrambling to the top, he looked around. The fog had settled on the dimpled hills. Climbing one was much like climbing another. There were hundreds. He felt lost. Peering into the distance, he saw a young man standing next to a rock cairn and recognized that it was himself. Where was the key to leaving this dreamscape? Why was he here?
That sounds like it's a great book.
Actually, it was a dream, and a very strong dream that I had that I did put into a children's story.
Okay.
One actually was one of my first efforts.
It's great.
Yeah.
Did you ever find out why he was there?
Actually, the story took on a different turn, even though that landscape does figure in the story. The children or young adults don't have the same experience of standing on the top of this shrouded hill and seeing themselves in the distance and feeling lost, or, you know, reflected back on themselves like that.
Neat.
It took a different turn entirely. They were on a treasure hunt of sorts.
Oh, neat. And one thing, I should have said this also, dreams are amazing writing prompts. And I would encourage everyone to just have a little notebook or a sheet of paper next to your bed, because no matter how powerful that dream is, and you're like, I'll remember that in the morning.
You never do.
By the time that cup of tea is down, it's gone. And I think that happens more and more for most of us. But I really do encourage you to have that right next to your bed. It's just a little book with a little something that you can.
Yeah, dreams are very good.
Dreams are very powerful. So, does anyone else want to share? Okay, Sulin.
Ask those questions.
You're still muted.
Okay.
There you go.
I have come to a place in my mind that I had hoped never to come to. Part of my brain is missing. Like my dear grandmother and my artistic aunt, I am only part me and part something else that has taken over who I was. I used to value control in my life, but now my brain takes the rest of me on strange journeys, not always unpleasant ones, but to places I have never been to before. I was a world traveler, so traveling is something I am used to. But now I am a traveler out of my own control, not knowing where I'm going and where I will end up on my travels.
Wow. That's very powerful.
Whoa, very nice.
What encouraged you to be writing that?
I'm going into dementia.
Wow.
And so I'm trying to write what I'm feeling as I'm going into dementia.
How brave and beautiful, and I'm sure very scary for you. Does it help to give you a little bit of control when you're writing about it?
I don't know. Writing is just something I've always done. So that part seems normal, but what I'm writing isn't necessarily normal for what I used to write.
Wow. Are you doing a book on this, or are you just?
No, maybe it will become one or maybe not. I have no idea at this point.
Thank you for wonderful, and thank you for documenting it. And what a insight you give to other people to know what's going through, and sharing that is very, very powerful. Thank you.
Yes, and it's the story, Sue Ellen.
Yeah, it's really, and your writing is fantastic. It's very compelling.
That's something I seem to be keeping. I don't know how long I will be able to keep that, but yeah, I want to write while I can write.
That's a gift you're giving yourself and everyone around you when you share it. Thank you. Yeah, wow. We can see just how powerful writing is for all of us, you know, and the gifts that it is for us as writers that we have. It's almost a responsibility, if you really want to think about it, you know, that we have this opportunity to create things and to document things and to be there in word, and that will last. So does anyone else want to share? I know we're kind of out of time here, so I think we're actually just right on. So we're good. It's 3:17, Peggy. So it gave me 3:15, so I don't want to throw up anyone's schedule on that one.
Well, that was wonderful, Theresa. That's why we love to have you.
You guys are doing the writing. That's great. It's just wonderful. So thank you for having such a great club. It's good to keep us connected and remembering why we do these things. So.
But you bring out the best in us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for having me. It's a joy. Every time I'm with you guys, I just love it. You know, more and more, and the writing is just always so inspiring. And happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone.
Exactly. So I want to remind people about Rama Gopal's pausing moves, his precious book made in India. If you want a copy, contact me. I also have about 10 or 15 village stories. So if you haven't got yours yet, make sure to contact me. If you can't pick it up, I'll take it to you. And so we have enough so you can buy a few extra copies for $7 a piece, also, if you'd like. And next time, Doug Sainsbury will be talking to us about his publishing adventures. Doug is a founding member, and when he started, he hadn't published anything. Now he's published several books. He'll be very interesting. He writes thrillers, mysteries, sci-fi. So very interesting. Let's see. We're going to finish with Phil, unless does anyone else have anything to say before Phil finishes our meeting with his pandemic poem. Oh, Sue Ellen.
Yes, thank you.
Wait, hold on, Phil.
Phil, I wanted to say this now that you're going to speak. You wrote something about my book that I guess ended up on Amazon. And I started getting calls from different, I guess, their publishers who wanted to do something with it. And when I said, well, why are you noticing it now? Because I wrote the book in 2006 and published it in 2006. And they said, no, we found something now that we're interested in. So thank you. I want you to know that sometimes those things catch the eye of someone.
All right. All right.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful.
Recommend books on Amazon. It's important. It's an important part of our club. If you read, I'm reading Brat by John Perkins. Talk about a page turner and talk about controversial. Read it. You won't believe it. So
thank you. Wow.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Phil.
Phil. Okay, wrote this in about 6 minutes. Impulsively, I got to make a few changes. This is a phrase used by a friend of mine who, I hate to use the word redneck, I'll say it in quotes, but got a redneck personality, but he's a lib, so figure that one out. It's called I Just Bake. He says to me, I said, what do you do all day? You know, he says, I just bake. So I just bake all day, read iPhone text, exercise, and pray. Pick up my mother's Bible about love and hate. Loving Father, will he welcome me at the gate? Think of the past, try not to weep. Hit my clean sheets, try to get some sleep. I watch sports on my iPhone, nothing from the present, it's a long-winded groan. Music of this time, no good rhymes. Dead melody, misdemeanors and crimes. We will make our note, Sherry and me, again this month. Next month's a crunch. eBay's a friend. That way we can go out to lunch. Masks are okay, but double them up. Make the people happy in their moment and relax in comfort. Maskless wonder sneezed on my child. I felt violent. The feeling left after a while. Homeschooling's hard, mostly for me. Never learned a thing back in the day. TV antennas deliver some joy. Andy Griffith, car chases and bad boys. Little Richard gone at 87. Now he gets his airplay, listening from heaven. listening from heaven. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. So unless anyone has anything to say, thank you, Theresa. As always,
Thanks,
you
Peggy.
were wonderful. And thank
Okay.
you, Sunshine, as always. And see you soon, and send us your stories.
Bye, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.